The Mike Francesa Show is presented by Verizon Fios.
From the studios of WFN in New York and simulcast across the country via the YES Network, this is Mike Zaun, Francesa on the Fan on a Monday, the 25th day of November. And you can remember it as the day after the season died in New York. Because, listen, I never expected the Jets to go to the playoffs, and they're not. And their offense is a joke. We'll get to that later. But this is more at the top about the Giants, who were given a great opportunity and who just threw it away. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday morning. The Giant talk was ill-advised. The Giant talk was, to me, a little unusual, a little out of character, because we had all pointed out, and I had as much as anyone, that the Giants' winning streak had been accomplished by great breaks, very good fortune, and the fact that they did not face a decent quarterback for a variety of reasons in the bunch. And they were going to go up in class against Tony Romo. But they were also going to go up against the Dallas defense in such disarray that it had given up record numbers in recent weeks, so bad that even Dallas wondered if they could win the game. I mean, Dallas had a chaotic week in their coaching. They were getting killed down in Dallas. They were getting killed on both sides of the ball. But on defense, they had allowed 600 yards in 2 of their last 3 games. They limped into Giant Stadium with half a defense. And what we got out of the very talky Giants, who went from predicting blood in the water to guaranteeing victories, and talking about how the Cowboys would choke again, to a Giant team that was dumb, classless, overly aggressive in terrible spots, poor execution, bad coaching. The Cowboys, in terms of execution, in terms of play calling, in terms of sideline execution, ate the Giants' lunch yesterday. On the last drive was a thing of beauty. They picked the Giants apart. And the Giants, don't pat yourself on the back for this being a close game. I thought Tom after the game was nuts. I mean, hey, tough division game. Tough division game. This is a game the Giants should have owned from the start. Should have owned. From Victor Cruz not putting a ball away to start the game, to the ridiculous personal fouls. And I'm not talking about the one on Kiwanuka on the quarterback. We all know we see those all the time, and everyone's going to have to live with them. San Francisco had to live with it last week. The Giants have to live with it this week. Yes, it was a turnover. Yes, it affected the game. You know what? Everyone's going to get those and lose those. There's no way around those. I'm talking about the ridiculous personal fouls by Kiwanuka and the ridiculous personal foul by Antrell Roll. And the same Antrell Roll, who, listen, Antrell Roll talks a blue streak, as we know. And he plays as hard as anybody plays, but he was toasted. He was singled out and toasted on the last drive. The Cowboys looked for him, and they ate him alive. Yes, they're asking him to do a lot in the secondary. Yes, the Giants had injuries in the secondary. But you know what? Who's going to care about that? The Cowboys have had injuries all over their defense all year. And the Cowboys and their quarterback came right down the field. They didn't have any wide receivers running in different directions. They didn't have balls falling all over the turf because the wide receivers are going one way and the ball's going another way in week 11. Maybe we can send out a search party and find out why Nix was not in a uniform yesterday. But let's also send a search party out for JPP, who talked, and then you couldn't find him in that game. I don't care. If you look for, tell me when you saw JPP yesterday. Do anything. Did you see him do anything yesterday? Did you ever see him in a play yesterday? You couldn't find him. And I rarely get on play calling, because play calling, for the most part, getting on single plays is silly. But for the Giants to go first and goal against the worst pass defense in football and never throw the ball in the end zone once on two 2 sets of downs inside the 10. Not one time in 6 downs did the Giants throw the ball in the end zone. Not one time. They ran 6 plays on those first 2 first and goals and never ran one play in the end zone. And on 3rd and goal from the 10, you're running an inside handoff against that pass defense? That's give-up stuff. Even Aikman got on him, and he never gets on play call. And even he's like, oh, my God, how can you call that play? How are you running an inside handoff on 3rd and goal from the 10 against that pass defense?
Another stop defensively by the Cowboy defense with a goal-to-go situation.
You got to be kidding me. Tom's throwing flags out there on the field. Lucky it gave him a break. I'm just going to stop the game, so I'm going to throw the challenge flag out on the field. Well, what is that about? That should have been, you know what? The Cowboys sideline was right. You know what? Take a challenge away. Take a timeout away. You just can't throw the flag out there for no reason. He wasn't challenging anything. It was a personal foul. He wanted an explanation, so he throws the challenge flag out on the field. How many times did you see the Giants yesterday? Hey, have the Giant wide receivers met? How many times were they running the wrong routes? How many times is Jernigan going one way, the ball's going the other way? And I'll tell you this, if the Giants give Nix any money, they're nuts, okay? I mean, they're nuts. Listen, Nix is a talented kid. He's had a nice career. I don't know where he is going forward, but for him not to suit up yesterday, I never get on guys about injuries. And I don't know what his injury is, but I hope it was a good one for him not to play that game yesterday. Because we didn't hear one word about him not playing. If he's hurt, God bless him. I never, ever question somebody being hurt. But I hope he was hurt because he has done nothing this year. And then not being that game yesterday really hurt the Giants. And, yes, they were hurt in the secondary yesterday, no question. And Roll is asked to play every position, and he's a guy I'd have on my team tomorrow. But let's be honest. The Cowboys looked for him on the last drive. They found him on the last drive, and they ate his lunch on the last drive. They beat him on every single play. Not one play, and they didn't get one lick of a pass rush on him. And when they blitzed, he picked that up, and away they went. And listen, I can't make a big deal about Cruz. I think Cruz has played hard all year. That's a rough play. It happens. I can't make a big deal about that. But that play was symbolic of the Giants season. That is symbolic. The Giants have just been out of it all year. They just can't do anything right. And even yesterday when they make a comeback and they make the game interesting and they get it tied, and yeah, you think, all right, now get a stop. Well, you know what? That symbolized their season. When it was there to be taken, they couldn't do it. They talked about their house. They talked about the Cowboys. They made it personal with the Cowboys. And then when it was right there, the defense in their building on a brutally windy day could not do anything against the Cowboys. That the Cowboys walked in there as beat up and as confused. And, I mean, listen, that coach had to get a vote of confidence last Sunday. They wanted him out in Dallas. They were killing the Cowboys, killing them offensively, killing them defensively. They changed their communications on the sideline yesterday. They're killing Monty Kiffin. They have nobody on defense. And they basically hung in there. Yeah, they give 200 yards rushing. You know what? Anybody can get 200 yards rushing against the Cowboys. Their defense stinks. And they played tougher yesterday than the Giants. They played smarter than the Giants yesterday. And they out-executed the Giants yesterday. We always give the Giants credit for being professional and for doing the right things. And that starts from the head coach on down. Well, yesterday, the Giants did everything wrong. They yacked their mouths all week, which was wrong, and then they played dumb football yesterday. Penalties after penalty and personal. And listen, the Kiwan who could play on the quarterback, it happens. But you know what? The personal foul was ridiculous, and the Roll personal foul was not needed, and it was unnecessary. And they sent that message, and they sent the message back to Roll, too. Cover somebody. And he couldn't. And it cost him a ball game. And where was the vaunted giant pass rush when they needed one time on that drive, one time on one of those third downs to put some pressure on Romo? Where was it? Where was JPP then? Here's the thing with JPP. He gets all the credit when he's good. It's time he gets some blame when he's bad. And yesterday, he wasn't bad. He was invisible. Did you ever see him anywhere within 10 yards of Tony Romo yesterday? The big plays they made on defense yesterday were made by their tackles. That's who made the big plays on defense. And you heard them say on the game that Perry Fuel said his tackles have been the best players for their defense all year. And you saw it yesterday that the Giants, whether it was Des Bryant, whether it was Witten, whether it was Romo, made every play they had to make. And when the Giants got it back even in their building, the Giant defense had no answer. This one's not on Eli. And listen, Eli and the offense have been out of sync all year. From the fact that they can never get a play in on time to the fact that they all run the wrong routes in week 11. All right? Hey, Jernigan didn't get here last week. Why is he running the wrong routes all the time? This has been going on with the Giants all year. The strength of the Giants was their pass rush and their passing game, and their pass rush hasn't been there all year, and their passing game hasn't been there all year. The running backs did their job yesterday. I can't get on the offensive line. They lost another center. They play. You know what? When you rush for 200 yards, you're not getting on the offensive line. But the wide receivers, from making dumb mistakes to dumb turnovers to miscommunications, that's been there all year. And you blame that on the quarterback and the coaches and the wide receivers. And that pass defense, which has been the heart and the bread and butter of this franchise, has been awful all year, and it was awful again when it was on the line. When they weren't chasing around some bum quarterback. We heard so much last week about the JPP called interception like it was Bobby Thompson shot around the world. Where was he yesterday in a big spot? Where was he yesterday on the last drive? Make any calls on that drive? And listen, I'm sorry. Eli will be on later. Calls can call up. The Giants are dead, all right? This team isn't good enough to beat anybody on the road. This team isn't good enough to even give them the benefit of the doubt that they could go to San Diego, Detroit, have Seattle come in, or maybe even go to Washington and win. Because when they had to play a decent team with a beat-up defense and a talented quarterback who is prone to mistakes, they couldn't even beat them. It showed you the 4 games were a mirage. We were going to find out yesterday if they were a mirage or not, and we found out, despite the closeness of the game, they were a mirage. That was a lousy performance. It was a lousy coaching job. It was a lousy job by the Giants. And you know what? They're going to be watching, not just the Super Bowl. They're going to be watching all the playoffs. Back after this.